and Saladin Mustafa, who's president of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee in New Jersey. Now, the group that these two are going to join is called Al-Shabaab, and it's been designated a foreign terrorist organization. How concerned should we really be about them trying to hook up with these guys in Somalia?
Very dangerous, Brenda, to see these events unfold, to have three rogue homegrown terrorists in a 9-month period of time, and to literally have it in our back door.
When you say three, you're talking about the failed car bomber in Times Square.
That's right. And, you know, the bottom line is New Jersey is so closely proximate to Manhattan and has so many different counties and fiefdoms and such diversity of culture and ethnicities. It seems the perfect place for people to hide and cover. And unfortunately, the radical Islamic clerics that are reaching people, even citizen radical Islamic clerics, are now encouraging people to go be Rambo, go overseas, go do paintballing, go buy thermoses, do all sorts of things, getting cell phones and laptops, and trying to do these rude or crude, rudimentary weapons or explosive devices, which are just as dangerous because they're on U.S. soil.
But when you think about what these guys were doing, I mean, they were lifting weights, they were practicing paintball guns and looking at violent video games. I mean, should we really feel threatened by this?
Well, the answer, should we really be threatened? I mean, there's clearly a degree of concern that we should have, but we also should be careful to make sure that we understand that these are isolated incidents. We don't know that there's a pattern yet of behavior except for these isolated incidents, and to not tar the entire community of believers, both here and abroad, with these elements that show up on occasion. Again, there's a concern. And within the community itself, we do need to look at it, and we do need to do a better job of educating it, educating the community, especially our young people, to the right causes and the right practices that they need to follow.
I'm a little concerned about some of that, and I, in principle, agree with you, but I don't feel it's appropriate to be politically correct with literally guns faced to our heads. When people can get, through associations, training overseas, and then cause us harm, it's really not the time to be patient. It's the time to thank the police officers and those vigilant citizens who call in these efforts and to take credibility in our law enforcement and intelligence ability to make sure that they can seamlessly react proactively rather than responsively. So I'm concerned really about being so patient.
Well, the trend, though, now seems to be the homegrown type of terrorist. And the concern is that you've got some of these wannabes who are developing into people who would like to go over and train and get some actual dangerous, training. The community's not recognizing them. They're not putting the finger on them before they get to the airport.
Well, again, not to minimize these are, again, very troubling developments. As we were talking about before, Mayor. These are developments that for the Muslim community in the United States are new. We're a fairly affluent community, a fairly educated community. These things that have happened over the past really 2 years of time are things that we're all trying to get a grasp of. We're very concerned, and we're looking to stop as much as we can. The issue that's developing is that these things seem to be happening outside of the core structures that we have in the Muslim community. They're not happening in mosques. They're not happening in community centers. Where they're happening is outside. They're happening in small groups.
But why are they getting to airports? Why is it that we have such a vulnerability? This isn't 2 years old. It's a 10-year-old war on terrorism. It's not only a 10-year-old. It could go back to the 1979 hostage-taking in Iran. And what concerns me is that it seems that we are, again, chasing ourselves. We have shoe bombers, we have underwear bombers, we have homegrown people who take fertilizer. And if there isn't a great sense of remorse exposed by the organized Muslim community, if the law enforcement community and our members of Congress, I'm an immigration lawyer by trade, do not take comprehensive immigration reform seriously in Washington, then we as biblical brothers or cousins are going to either be debating, or our children are going to be dealing with the same challenge as they deal with the war on drugs.
Now, generally, the internet is what's playing the major role in helping these connections get made. Usually, you would expect someone who is a disaffected young man abroad to get involved in something like this. How is it reaching out and snagging these kids who live here?
Again, because the internet is such an open forum, and Mayor Walz, again, I don't want to minimize the issue that we're talking about here. And if anyone, in addition to the innocent people who have or could have died, is a victim here,
right.
It's also the Muslim community. It happens twice. We get victimized by these young, misguided people who are doing dastardly things. I want to make that clear. And we suffer the consequences. We're the ones who have our faith denigrated. So there's no one in the American Muslim community. We stand up as loud as we can to stop these things. I want to make that clear that there's a misperception that we have not stood up. We have stood up. We will continue to stand up to denounce these things, and not just to denounce these things, but to actually teach in the proper places, meaning the mosques, meaning the schools, that is wrong. That this nation provides us, the Muslim community, and every other faith community, the opportunity to practice their faith like nowhere else. This is something we should be proud of.
Then you
but
have
what
to
can we do then to try and put our fingers on this before the...
I think it's important to focus on, again, as you so eloquently stated, on the exceptions to the Muslim faith. It isn't a war on Islam. It is a war on the fanatics, the people who have hijacked your beautiful religion. What really we need to do is not give them a stage. Try them as military combatants. Make sure that we come down so harshly that they'll never see the light of day. And to take this aggressively so that our law enforcement officials in New York have the same resources that they do in New Jersey. We travel on the Lincoln Tunnel. You see them having bodysuits and gas masks. You don't see the same resources coming to New Jersey. And to make sure that our leaders in Washington will correct the immigration that we have. The very beautiful DNA that brings us to the same table of this country is the very thing that they're ignoring because of the politics of the moment, and that is a shame.
This is obviously going to develop as we go along. We'll keep an eye on that. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Next, the BP oil